6:38. We have a small delay, but we are getting the solar implementation task force in progress here, and the meeting is now open. I guess I have to do a roll call because we do have some new members. So who is down on the left?
Jason.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm gonna, this may be a oh, Jason's there, great. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna do a roll call. Gavin?
Here.
Yes.
Phil?
Yeah.
You, Charlie? And myself, Steve. I'm here, that we're in order. So the first item on the agenda this evening is, as usual, minutes as available. We had 2 sets of minutes in the previous meeting. We've had 2 weeks to look them over. Do I have any comments on those? And if not, can I get a motion?
Well, I have one comment. When I read through,
We're good, thanks.
when I read through the February 15th minutes, somehow Mr. Villers turned into Mr. Jammers. I have no idea that happened. But I just, so one edit would be, I could go through these and just change it.
That'll probably
might
be
be
a good
appropriate.
plan. That'll be a good plan.
That's the only thing that's.
Yeah, that sounds good, Wendy. Yeah, my autocorrect didn't like Mr. Villers turned to Mr. Jammer, so you have a new nickname.
But Mr. Jammers was fine.
Yeah.
I feel honored. Okay. With that emendation, then I get a motion on both of those minutes.
So I make a motion that we approve the minutes from February 1st, 2024 as drafted, and for February 15th, 2024 as drafted with the one correction that Mr. Chambers mentioned to Mr. Villers.
Second.
Second.
Okay, so let's take a vote.
Okay.
We'll go around. Gavin,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Yes.
Phil. Aye. Charlie. Aye. And myself, Dean. Aye. So those are approved and they can now be great. Chair's report this evening is pretty extensive. I've been to 3 public events since we last met, and that was as expected. The first was a meeting that was just the standard FinCom meeting of that they hold on Thursdays, and they invited me in to give a full presentation of the materials for the Solar Task Force article. And then 3 days later or something, I was there again on Tuesday for a FinCom hearing. So I prepared a PowerPoint. I can run through the slides. I'm just going to throw the slides up and show everybody very briefly what I did and see if I can find them quickly. And I will share them up. You can show me the first set? I'll show you the first set, and then I can show you the one for the FinCom meeting on the 19th, the hearing on the 19th. So this is the set. This is the first. Can I get sharing rights here? I don't know. You should be able to. Okay, go on. My PowerPoint was to come up. I probably took 7 or 8 minutes to go through this with them, and so you will see it in much quicker order because we are very familiar with this material, right? So those are our chart. That's our chart. It was 2-pronged chart. We have to create a plan and schedule, and we also have to probably show momentum. Okay, we had these 3 sites, a control system and battery storage, and I had a few points to make about the benefits of battery storage and the control system I just spoke to you through. These are the sites that we started with. That's our original 9.2 that ended up in the warrant. And then here are the updated financials. I gave that there will be no solar move at town meeting, And the funding elements that will show up at town meeting are the battery and a preliminary funding component for the management control system. And final motion that we're going to provide will do that. This is just a revised table to show where everything shakes out. I'll just comment for this group here that in the process of building this, I did have some back and forth with Laura. She was a little concerned about the 2.7 million because she was looking at that vis-a-vis the 3.3 million that was in the CMS battery proposal, and she didn't have any rationale to bring that down. The way I built this up was by using Tesla as the base price benchmark, and what I found with the Tesla benchmark was that the base price of a Tesla battery is actually about 1.3 to 1.4 million. That's all the battery costs, and all the rest of this, which is about 800,000 or 900,000, which one wouldn't get to 2.1, is engineering, permitting, preparation of the site. There's a lot of included stuff in all of the 2.1 that's there. It also includes full attachment to your network, etc. And so I really couldn't figure out where to put the other money, but because Dave had recommended a 30% lift over that number, 2.7 is actually at 25%. It's still, I don't know where all that money would be allocated because the Tesla price includes so much stuff.
You know, part of it might be in the fact that if it goes to bid, someone marks it up at chunk.
But you just buy it from Tesla.
Well, I'm gonna go Charlie Parker, or I'm gonna go.
You're not,
right
but
up
the light
something.
plant is.
Well, it's the light plant gonna do it that way,
Right.
or are they gonna bid it out and have it done as a project with somebody marking up everything? So that's, I'm just
I
saying.
don't know.
I'm just saying, that's
It's-
something Jason might wanna
But
comment.
that's a great question. And Jason, if you have any comment about that, anyway, if the light plant were to just go to the Tesla website, I think you were CC'd on the mail that I sent back to Laura showing all of the included capabilities that Tesla adds to their white glove service, so to speak. So, I'm not really clear on where the 2.7 would go, but there you go. So that's,
And there's 200 grand for contingency too, but
And
all
there's-
for the battery.
it's all for the battery.
It's all for the battery, so.
Yeah, so, well, the reason that there's 200 grand in there is because I took the 30% number that
Oh.
we were using and I moved it down to 25%, and I took the difference, more or less, the difference, and threw it in the contingency.
Oh.
So it's all kind of in
Okay,
there.
so it's.
Yeah, it's all kind of in there.
Well, you still like to ask for less, me, would you, if you get away with it? Or
Uh,
would you?
I would probably leave it at 3 and say, we really expect to be able to do this for less. We're very hopeful that we can do this for less, but I need to square the thing with Laura, who still believes that the battery and all the wraparound work that needs to be done would price out at about 3.3. That's
Yeah,
her
that
number.
was the original.
That was her number.
Are we allowed to discuss any of this now?
Sure, I mean,
So I think, I'm not so concerned with what goes in the amount requested. What I am concerned about is what goes in as the statement of what we really think it should be. Because that becomes a record of what these things should and shouldn't cost.
right.
And that's something that you should be used in the future, as opposed to simply what was asked for at town meeting. So I would like to get the numbers right on this battery, rather than have them added with things that we don't really necessarily think we're going to need. So that's all.
I'm okay with that. I just don't know how to unwind it, that's all.
Well, you wrote the mail to Laura.
I did.
And
I started
we're
that.
waiting to see, we're gonna have the discussion, so that's okay.
So, Jason has his hand raised, so that means he's interested in getting into the meeting. So, Jason, why don't you give us your 2 cents here?
Yeah, sure. I talked to Laura, and Laura, I reviewed the emails that she wrote to you, Dean, in response to this and with the cost estimates. I think that the way that she got that was basically $1 per megawatt hour based on talking to other MLPs, projects that are underway, contacting E&E to find out what they're hearing from suppliers for cost estimates, all in. So I agree that the Tesla website does seem to include a lot of those ancillary costs. I also agree with Charlie. We can't just buy something from Tesla. We do have to go through a competitive bidding process, even as an MLP, because of the dollar amount. So I don't know exactly where those pressures are, but she feels very certain that the cost per megawatt hour is closer to what she suggested in her March 11th email. But I agree the Tesla number is inconsistent, and we're not exactly sure where they're getting their number or if anybody has done it for that cost at that scale, other MLPs.
Jason, when are we gonna do the RFP for the CMS battery?
So that is dependent on SDA's final designs. We actually are going back and forth with them with that right now. So the way the battery ties into the switchgear that's being designed right now makes all these projects dependent on each other. So what they're trying to do is figure out the scope of the battery so that they can design the switch gear. But unfortunately, the lead times on switch gear are also driving the design of the battery. The site is also limiting how much space we have for the battery. We got some information from Milton Cat, who suggested we needed a 60-foot trailer for the battery and a 20-foot control trailer. In addition to that, which would not fit on the current site as proposed. So there's a lot of variables. I know that the latest we were looking at is a 4 megawatt hour, 2 megawatt battery. The 2 megawatts means that we have to be able to have switchgear that and a switchboard design that can accommodate that much power, which changes the size and scope of where it's going to go within the vault, which affects the conduit. And if any of that trips something that says, well, that's going to be 2 years from now that we can get it, we have to sort of rethink that. So right now, Joe, Jeff, and all the engineers are working with PLM and SDA to try to figure out how can we get this done quickly under the requirements that we have in the scope and size that we need. The latest analysis of the battery economics were very poor with a 1x4. And so we're trying to make the 2x4 work, but it's creating a lot of other headaches. So that's where we're at right now.
Thank you. More information than we need. But
Thank you.
Feel your pain.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does the battery size have extra capacity as we see it, so that when we're able to do some of the other projects, we already will have a head start, or is it just, well, I'm not sure what it'll cover.
Well, to try to understand the way to answer that, it's not like a disk cage where you have extra bays where you can add more disk drives. When these things are built out, they fill up the whole trailer. So you don't really have the ability to then go and say, I want to add another couple of.
No, that's why my question is, for this price, do we have significant extra capacity for future projects or not?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by capacity for future projects. I think we're going to use all of this capacity for this project to buffer our assessments from the ISO New England. And so we would dispatch all of this energy for that purpose in order to get, an assessment reduction for specific spots during the year, specific points during each
Well,
month.
my hearing then that for this size battery, you will not be able to put in any solar power should we succeed.
I'm hesitant to answer that question to say, no, you can't. If we put this battery in, one of its primary missions is to protect the grid, our local grid, from any kind of solar saturation or solar overproduction, production of solar. That's what you said. What's that? That's what you said. That's what I think. That's the
Well, that's
primary
just-
mission for the
That's,
thing.
that's part of the strategy, of
That's-
CMLP.
That's CMLP's primary goal for the battery. Primary.
And we only do,
Yeah, okay. So,
But, you know, it's,
So we're
it's
spending,
interesting, it's interesting, this size, Jason, when we talked about the trailers, now it's like, that's big. Right, so now it's like, ooh, it's another question, concern that needs to be considered.
So, sorry, these numbers, that these factor in any of the federal incentives at all? Or?
no, these are bust out
No,
from Tim.
so that will help, but
Where that
This
comes
is
in
the
is as we go along here.
Yeah.
Lost my.
Page.
There we
there
go.
you go. Yep.
So there it is. So, Jason, you're saying that that's a 60-foot long thing?
Not from Tesla, from Milton Cat, a different manufacturer.
And a 20 foot something.
And an additional 20-foot.
Yeah.
You know, like caboose.
Yeah.
The caboose. All right.
so we're saying for $2.8 million, we don't have a surplus capacity for any solar project we undertake.
We're not saying that. We're not saying that. There are different, there are multiple potential purposes for this device. The primary one is to allow for the expansion of solar within the CMLP service area by protecting that service area from solar spikes. So that's the primary mission for this battery. A financial benefit for the battery would be when that's not happening, when we're not needing it for that we'll call it an emergency purpose. When we're not needing it for that, we can deflect the assessments that are laid upon the CMLP to pay for capacity and transmission fees. And that's a completely separate purpose, but with, careful balancing, you can be in a position to protect the network from the expanded solar and solar saturation, but also to take advantage of this opportunity, which is a financial opportunity.
So does that imply that there's another financial option? We so promote to make it to actually build a solar site, since the southern manufacturing, right? Can we use the batteries for that purpose too?
You mean if you charge it? I mean,
Yeah,
that's the
charge it,
concept. When we have solar, the battery can be charged
The
from the
battery
solar.
can offload
Yeah.
the excess that's generated on the network. Generally in Concord right now, on probably 300 days, maybe per year, at least, if not 350, all of the solar that's floating around on the Concord CMLP network is automatically consumed immediately. As soon as it's generated, it goes right on the grid and it goes right into people's homes. There are a very low number of days when there's more of that than we have a place to put it. And that's when we would want to offload it into the battery. And that's when, so if today we haven't suffered from any downside to that, but we feel like we're skating close to the edge, if we put in a battery like this and protect the particular bus bar that is at risk, it would allow for the expansion of additional solar on that bus bar. I'm going to stop talking
Yeah,
about that
we'll
because
just
I'm
leave it
done.
at that.
I mean,
Yep.
that's the answer.
And that just prevents the need for curtailment, right? Like,
It prevents the
Right,
need for
right, yeah.
curtailment,
Yep.
and it allows us to then dispatch
Mitigate.
that energy later and use it later.
Okay,
what do you mean the buffering does?
Okay, you have a question?
Well, I don't think we've really seen the plans or that we understand the plans for the CMS battery, so I'm not sure we should spend a lot of time on.
Well, I don't know that we were
I
talking
don't
about
know.
the
I-
CMS
I
battery. Bill's
started
asking
it
about this
because
battery.
I was just.
Well, we're talking about the CMS battery.
Well, no, but I started because we were trying to figure out if Tesla was reasonable, right? And I'm like, look, how far are we on the RFP for this?
Yes.
So let's move back to your presentation.
Okay, so anyway, we're just going through
Yeah.
this. This is what I gave the
Yeah.
finance committee. If you think that I'm giving them the wrong information,
That's good.
please tell me that I'm giving them the wrong information.
But let's not conflate the two CMS stuff.
Right, well, the concern
No.
is the validation of the battery amount, which you raised, so the question is it reasonable? And I think unfortunately, right now, right or wrong, we don't have any other
We
benchmark.
don't, we don't have any benchmark. We have the Tesla benchmark, and that's the only benchmark. And we have rule of thumb that we got from, the Laura got from the.
Which is okay.
So.
So good enough.
It's good. All right, so this, Wendy and I went back and forth on how to model this.
Yeah,
We
right.
used Laura's model as the baseline. We then floated it past her and she tended to approve of everything except the base price of the battery. She's like, I don't know about this, 2.7 million. I like 3.3. Please use that. And this is based off the 2.7 million. That number that says 11 years is actually wrong, and I had to correct it on the next day.
Yeah.
The next time I came back to the finance committee, that's really 13.
Yeah.
It's really 13 years.
13 years, okay.
Yep, 13 years.
That's not the world's most attractive number for you.
No, but if the
Well,
battery will
but-
last as long as Tesla says it will last, then it's okay. It's not
But we're
gonna-
trying to do good here.
We're trying to
and we're
Right.
getting our money
That's-
back. So
We're not putting the light plant in a negative cash flow position, even at the front end. It's positive cash flow right out of the chute. So
Yeah.
hopefully it's okay. And then these are ratepayer savings that has the same exact profile, but it's just scaled for what an average ratepayer would ultimately save based on the fact that we have this thing. The ratepayer would save, starting at, $250 a year. Not going to be a big deal on your bill, but it does move up. And when we retire the debt, it jumps, those last 4 bars are jumping because we retired the debt. And these models do include a degradation factor for the battery.
good message.
So, I think it's a good message. And, so then I went through the funding model because the finance committee, and the public generally doesn't want to hear that their taxes are going up. So the funding model really just talks about the fact that we put this debt on the books, but the light plant will retire the debt based on the energy value that's being generated from, or actually the assessment reductions being generated by the battery. So that's savings that are applied to operating budgets, debt service paid by the light plant, and the ratepayer actually gets a benefit out of this whole thing. And everything's said and done. It's a positive ratepayer impact throughout the whole thing. And that's the end of my message. And there's the article text that just says $3 million.
Well, let's see what Jason thinks about it.
Yeah. So Jason was there for a slightly different presentation, which had a few extra slides. I'll just show you those extra slides, which are,
Oh, is this the next one?
yeah.
This is the public hearing.
Oh, okay.
first.
Yeah. This public hearing.
Yesterday. It was just yesterday.
It was just yesterday. I feel like I've been on like steroids here. It's terrible. Okay, so just yesterday I was out and about. Let's see. Is that shared or is that the same? Which one is this? No,
We can't see it. I think it's
Yeah,
behind
yeah.
the front window.
I have to go back to Zoom and share the correct.
Oh.
I'm zooming in, but here, let me do this. I'm going to stop sharing this. And I'm going to share a different screen. And I'm going to share this screen. Okay, so this is the one that, there's the one that I gave. And I had a few extra slides. I had this slide, which basically pointed us in the direction of ground mount systems. It showed some calculations that we had made. Wendy and I made these calculations in conjunction with Laura and John Dalton to value the wholesale value of electricity. So with his consultation, these are the numbers that we got, the 20-year average life and the 30-year average life. This is the price of solar, the value of solar on the wholesale market is not going to move very far. It's just not. Technology is going to advance apace. Energy density of the panels, probably the expense of doing the installs, etc., so that the future value is really not growing. It's almost like the computer industry. It's just going to be stable, and you're going to get more for the same money or less money. It's going to be crazy. But if you look at this, ground mount is marginally more expensive to do than the wholesale value of the electricity if it's a 20-year life on the panels. But if the panels can be stretched, then the lifetime value of the energy moves down to a lower number and makes it very competitive. So to takeaway message on this slide was basically, we are really gonna be promoting ground mount or the light plant to get involved in ground mounts pretty much exclusively. And roof mounts are not really productive financially for the light plant because it's not competitive with the wholesale value of electricity. Roof mounts, it's almost like a vanity project. It's
And the roof mounts are behind the meter.
Behind the meter, and
Roof
that's, yeah,
mounts are
that's,
behind the
yeah.
meter. That's a wonderful message. We don't need to
Right.
put them down.
So, yes,
Gavin, where you were going last time.
yeah, so,
Right.
so behind the meter, if the town, through the tax base, wants to fund a system on the roof of a building, they could get the value over the life of the rooftop system and apply that as an offset against their electric bill. It should work out because retail rates, which I could add to this slide to make it clear, retail rates are probably somewhere around 18 to 19
Yeah, it
cents.
was, and that's exactly what it was for Didi.
Yeah.
When
This
we did
means
the
this-
Didi
yeah,
model.
Meeting
That's
model. This
exactly
means
what
the
it was.
schools would have to
Yeah,
Right,
pony up the money and they would get
Yeah.
they would get the.
they would
behind the
get,
meter.
they get the behind the meter if they're willing to put
Or if
capital on
the
the table.
town wants to do
If the town
something.
wants to do some sustainability work.
So get into our report,
Yeah.
but we don't have to jump in.
Okay,
there,
but anyway,
yeah.
the message is probably the light plant won't be doing roof mounts and the light plant will certainly not be doing canopies. That was the message. That was just last night. And then I put this site list up for ground mount sites. So people have a clue what we're thinking. These are back of the envelope numbers. There's no real serious vetting other than the drainage basin. The landfill is still kind of a,
That was Dave's quote. right?
that's Dave's
Yeah.
quote. He got it from Kearsarge
Yeah.
verbally. It's not, we don't really have very much to go on here. But, and we're just sort of spitballing on the potential
Okay.
opportunities at 2229 and NCI.
But Laura gave us a wastewater treatment. Didn't you, the clean water?
I think, I'm not sure. Maybe that
I can go
Gavin
look
has
it
that
up.
number. I'm not sure.
There's a lot of guest stuff here. We
Yeah,
need
yeah,
to, we need to validate all.
We need, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right. This
But
is a-
nonetheless,
this
just
is-
putting it out there, you know?
You're
We're
just
putting it out there.
planting a seed and.
You're planting a seed, and I had to kind of talk fast about Amendalia, like, we're not taking the whole land, you guys can carry on with your, your community gardens, and the farmer who's there, maybe this is like, 2 acres, we'll try to snip off 2 acres and just put it far away from housing and stuff. So,
What I don't understand is what we mean by MCI Concord. Okay, putting a ground mount on top of the rubble,
Well,
the rubble.
well, they're gonna have to tear down that.
Well, they have a solar.
Tear down that.
Right.
wall.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
tiny
This is
little-
kind of the long-term view.
Yeah, it's a
Maybe
long-term
maybe this is 10 years.
Yeah.
Who knows? But the point is to put a collar around what we really think can happen.
Right.
The notion is that this is it. There's no more. There is no more land in Concord where you can actually, build out solar in a financially feasible way. And this kind of basically sends the message, let's stop looking. Of course, people can continue to look, but
Right. And
let's
it's-
not continue to think that there's sort of unlimited amounts of land out there to do so.
So in terms of the way we potentially position roof mount in the report, we say, here's a list of places the town would have to make these investments with taxpayer funded debt issuances, et cetera. But that would get the town these kinds of benefits behind the meter.
Yeah.
And that's the only way we can really position roof top at this point.
And that's in the report. That's a report.
That's a report
So
issue. We're
let's
not.
go back to your presentation.
And the
Yeah.
light plant, we don't expect the light plant to be doing those things.
Right.
Now, one of the things that I think we need to make very clear, we're essentially saying that roof mounting in the high school is a losing proposition financially.
Yes,
But
yes.
as that memo that you circulated with already, points out that a number,
I did it.
Wendy
It's the
said
one
it.
Brian,
Anyway, yes.
Brian has sent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Brian.
yeah,
Yeah.
there are a number of other intangible benefits. What I have not heard is how big is the deficit that you would have to balance against these intangible benefits.
We'll get back to that. It's on the agenda. So,
That's a fun topic.
yeah, it's on the
I'm
agenda.
looking forward to that one.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
Okay, because you asked for it to be on the agenda, so I forgot about it. All right, so these are really the added slides, the added tool slides. These are the same basic messages. literally on Monday morning, that was the message in the front page of the New York Times, which is rising strain on grids. The battery plays into that, so it alleviates.
It's another new slide?
No, that was
It
in there
was.
last night.
Oh, it was?
Last-
Okay. I
that
That was in
fell asleep by
last,
then.
Yeah.
that was in yesterday's slide. Yeah, that was,
Very timely.
yeah, it was very timely.
Yeah, I like that one. That's a good one.
And there's the battery again.
Yeah.
And then I
Oh,
put this
this-
one in there to just show that the battery can soak up energy and then dispatch it to cut peaks. And we got into a little conversation with the finance committee and then also with some of the broader public. Are you just gonna be buying energy, from the grid and then just dispatching it? And the answer is sometimes yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes yes, sometimes we'll have excess solar that we can
Mhm.
house and then dispatch later. But that's really in those emergency modes where we're trying to protect our own. Otherwise, any energy that's generated within the fence line of the light plant, I would expect gets consumed immediately. It just gets consumed. But
You're completing a couple of things there.
I am a few, I am.
Yeah, I think bottom line, what we're saying we want to do is we want to use the battery for transmission capacity savings.
Right.
And not for dispatching, what we grab off the solar panels when the solar panels are peaking.
I think
We're not doing that.
that's unlikely. The
No,
only-
we're not doing,
We're
not
doing that when it puts our grid at risk.
Right.
That's when we will do.
Well, then you're saying you want to have a mixed use for the
That's
battery
right,
that we're
yes.
proposing.
Yes.
That's new since last night.
No.
No,
It is, it
it's
is.
not. No, it's
No,
not.
yeah.
No,
Well,
I-
then you want to have
I
a,
stated
well,
last-
we'll discuss this further.
I stated last night that the primary thing we're trying to do is protect, it's on the slide, Charlie.
Well, I know, but I think we need to be clear about it.
Protect
We
the
need to be-
grid from intermittent solar overload.
Right.
We need to be clear, we need to be clear about how you go about having a mixed use. Where you're trying to use the battery to do, peak shaving and clean peak. And you're also trying to use the battery during solar peaks. To grab what you need to grab to protect the grid. So that's some modeling that needs to be done, and that is not, I don't think that's trivial. Because if you're using it for one purpose, and then you try to switch to another purpose with an we've got a problem.
It does present some forward-looking management of
So-
where are you with the battery and what's the
So the
Big-
potential.
number one-
the implication is you have to block out all the time periods where you're potentially going to need the battery for peak management. For peak management of the solar peak.
Yeah.
And those couldn't be used
For the other,
for the trans and cap savings.
right? And you hope that those particular things are not in conflict.
Well, you hope, but they aren't gonna be the same, so. This needs to be thought about because, it potentially has kind of a significant impact on.
But this
Model this.
intermittent solar overload, I mean, the savings is really, it's the peak savings of yours. That's where most of this money is coming from.
The
This
financials
other
come
one.
from the cap and transmission,
Right.
assessment
Yeah.
reductions.
Yeah.
And protecting the grid is
It's
not, we're
Model.
not doing any financial
It's
modeling about
just
that. It's just,
there.
Why don't we
For
just
emergency
do curtailment to protect the grid and not mess up the use of the battery and let the battery focus on cap and trans.
I mean, that's kind of what we did.
yeah,
But
That's exactly what we did.
that's not what he
But
said.
you know what? But the,
So this is important to figure out because we're gonna have to be clear about this in the report.
I think you're probably right. So we need to talk more to Jason on how we're gonna do this. So when there is this crisis, I don't know how we're gonna. Use a battery, because the number one goal is to use a battery. This
So if
solar overload.
the solar overload is into emergency management of a peak problem,
It's not a peak though, it's the.
solar peak.
it's,
relative to our units.
Yeah, that's the shoulder seasons when we're in solar at that risk. But your peak is actually not at that time.
Right, exactly.
The
They're
line
It's in the
different-
summer.
You're getting close.
Right.
The
Well, it's
capacity
when-
peak will never be at the same time.
Right,
that-
it's not.
that
It's
solar-
Yeah. Because the solar saturation problem is actually a problem with not enough load.
Right, right.
That's correct. Not enough. Right. Anyway, these are the slides I showed.
Right.
This extra one
Yeah.
shows peak production, and then,
that-
and then the rest of it is basically.
And
So-
people got that graphic when you were
Yeah.
trying to explain it, because it's a
Yeah.
tricky topic.
It
to
is,
kind of
it's
explain.
very
You did a
tricky.
pretty good job.
Very tricky.
speaking
That
to it.
graphic came from a Massachusetts report that was done in 2016 called this, I want to say it's called Storage Forward or something, some kind of like fancy
But
name.
it worked. People
Yeah.
understood it.
Yeah.
And I think it.
Yeah. So, so
Right.
then to finish the chair's report, since that was a chair's discussion, to finish the chair's report, this morning we had a chair's breakfast. There wasn't anything tremendously exciting there, except to point out the dates that we have in front of us for the town meeting. We have to have our final motion available by April 5th, which I think we have our final motion. I don't think we're in question. Our final motion is $3 million, and we scratch the words solar energy. So I think that's our motion, unless Charlie, you want to weigh in and say that we really want to shave that motion down even further, like further vet that
Further bet the dollars?
the dollars on the
No, I
back.
leave the dollars the way they are.
Okay, all right, so we'll leave the dollars there. And I don't know how to further work with Laura if we need to get better information. I added 25% to something that you could literally pull the trigger tomorrow and get. And I don't know what we're doing with the extra 25, so,
But this gets into the like.
Yeah.
Discussion too, so I don't.
Yeah. so, yeah. So I think we'll just leave this at 3 million, and we do have a $199,000. So,
And this-
so there's that, and then on the 12th, there's a coordination meeting with the moderator that I have to attend. I will probably get allocated 5 minutes to promote the article. And you can't really get through a million slides or very heavy concepts. It's very hard to get across some of these concepts in 5 minutes. Especially if what you're trying to do is say, hey, we need this money, and here's the battery we're gonna buy, and here's where, here's what we think we can do with it. 5 minutes will go by very quickly, and it's very difficult to, for anybody to.
What doesn't emerge here is for this money. What is the town and its ratepayer benefit?
Yeah, there's a whole graph of that. Did you not see the graph?
Yes, how the graph.
Okay, good.
Those are-
That's.
Those are all financial.
Those are financial returns.
They're all
You're getting-
positive.
Yeah, they're all positive. You're getting a $30 rate off by the time or $28 by the time you end up at year 16. It's on the graph. I don't.
No,
is that
it's not
not-
on the graph,
Okay,
but it seems
the
very modest.
public is not invited to weigh in until public comment, so you can put your hand down if you would, Mr. Thank you. So, anyway, I don't know what to say.
No.
Okay.
So, okay, so I just letting you know that my work continues. We also are gonna need to, and it's part of the agenda tonight, is to work on some kind of language that we want to think about for a table piece. So let's just move on to the hearing and meeting update. I went through the slides, so we've already gone through the FinCom slides. My question to the group is, that group of slides, there's a lot of slides. It's not obvious to me that I can get through that in 5 minutes. And it's not obvious to me that it hits all the right points. Is there anything that anybody wants to throw at me that is how to emphasize differently, what to put more on or what take away? Because it's not, I can say, here's what a battery looks like, boom, and that's like 2 seconds. That doesn't take time to show a picture of a physical battery. But to put up a slide that says, here's where some energy might be stored, and here's where the peak will be, and they got to explain that. I don't know. There's a lot there. So anybody got any comments on how to how to skinny it down? Or?
Well, mine is the more fundamental comment. We've not come up with something that's very exciting. And I think we need to take a second look as to what could be done with modest contributions from the town. That would make it more exciting, using actually electricity.
I don't think we're, I don't know how we're in a position. to
The
do
only
that.
thing that, I mean, if you know it's not there, we're sending it for the value.
That's in, yeah, it's, hold on, if
Okay.
you want, it's
Yeah.
in
Well,
the
if you want to
slide.
start going through the slides again, come up one by one, I mean, we could do that process, but
Well,
trying to remember the slides from memory and then make comments as a whole on the whole thing, I think it's kind of
Well,
a difficult format.
I know, based on our meeting schedule, we're gonna have some challenges here to get me to town meeting without. I don't know how to get a feedback.
When do you have to submit the final slides?
That's a great question, and that's
well, we're meeting
findable.
on the first, like, we're meeting in what? Like the first
I mean, if you'd like
April, right?
to do
So,
it at the next meeting, go
Yeah,
over
we
the whole
should do
thing, I
that,
think
or-
we should do that.
yeah, maybe send out the
Because I
slides.
think,
and
I
we
think I think the
guess.
slides had some stuff in there, my sense of it was there were some things that kind of go over people's heads. And then there's some other things that are just two word salad.
Okay,
So I think it needs some work. And I think we need to workshop it.
I'm happy to, yeah, that, I can do any way to get this done, I'm just letting the committee know that to get this out the door and get me up there with the slides we think are gonna sell and promote the value to the town, the best is really the goal there.
Well, let's look at the schedule though. When are the slides due and do we have another meeting?
I'm looking
April
for this.
4th would be our next scheduled meeting. Oh, yeah, it's right here.
Right there on your.
So April
Yes,
4th,
it's all
and
done.
when are the slides due? They're all due on the 11th, right?
Let me,
4 5, well, that's 4 5 motion.
I'm gonna go to the town website and see what this calendar is, the calendar is right up.
And what has been, unfortunately, the endless story is the old dump. And
Unfortunately, we
Well,
can't.
we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
All right, so the draft motion, which we have already, that's like locked and loaded. I'm not worried about that. That's due on April 5th, Friday, April 5th. And then, motion review. So Carmen's gonna sit down with town council and any of the motions that need to be reviewed by town council. That's her meeting, it's not mine. And then the moderator will have a meeting on the 12th, which is just to tell people how much time they're gonna get. I think I might have gotten 6 minutes, but I think I got 5 minutes last year just to promote this meeting. And then on the 18th is the PowerPoint presentation must be seen.
So we have time to have one meeting on this.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Well, let's do that. Let's table this for now. Let's wait until
So,
we.
but can I just, can you pass out some of the slides to us and then?
Yeah.
I would be happy to sort of give you some feedback so you could be more prepared for the 4th in our next meeting.
So do we have 2 meetings? So it's a 4th
we have-
and then 2 weeks after that.
It's 18.
18th. So we have a meeting on the night of the 18th, but that meeting, I have to
Well,
get it
sure.
submitted on the 18th. So
Yeah,
that,
I mean,
we
could-
only get one meeting. We only get one
One
meeting.
meeting is good. One meeting is perfect.
except if we believe there's a realistic possibility of having by time meetings and good information on the land, so if we could.
No, we're not
No,
doing it.
we're not
It's off
doing
the table. We're not doing it.
Well, it's off the table until it gets on the table.
Yeah.
It doesn't get on the table until we get a feasibility study, whatever it's called.
And where does
Yeah.
it stand?
Feasibility study.
It's on our
Well, we'll
agenda.
wait and
So
see.
we'll get to that.
I have to be
Yeah.
frank. I've already been to a finance committee meeting. I have real scheduling problems. The finance committee is already annoyed because we have not taken our final motion to the light board and have them, go over it and approve it. So now the finance committee is holding their breath saying, we're not gonna make a move, neither will the select board until the light board weighs in on our final motion. So I can't say, Phil, that we're gonna wait until April 15th, when I've got to file some to decide on our final motion. The final motion is due on the 5th anyway. So we just have to cut and run.
The only things we're doing now is we're cleaning up the messaging.
Yeah.
Cleaning up the messaging so we can
Right.
sell better what we already know we're gonna do.
Yeah.
What we're gonna do is what's in that motion that was already. That's all we're doing.
And that's far short of certainly what all of us hope to be able to do.
I can't agree more.
That would be a true statement.
I think we all agree.
We're not, Jason and his team, we don't have time to get
We're
the
doing the right thing.
necessary
That's what we're trying to
analysis.
do.
Right.
Yep.
Yes.
But-
So the 18th is when the PowerPoint is due, and we have a meeting on the 18th.
Well, I don't think it's out of order to explore what we might consider.
It's out of order.
It's out of order
It's out of
because
order.
we don't have
Yeah.
time.
We don't have time. Okay, we're just, we made that call at the last meeting because I needed to get in front, I needed to go to a hearing, which is a public town thing where we say, this is what we're gonna do. Okay,
Again,
so at the
that's
last
clear.
meeting, we decided this is all we've done. And they asked me last night, and they asked me at the finance committee meeting on the 14th, Parshar asked me directly. He said, are you still continuing to pursue those 3 feasibility studies? And I said, we are, but we're only pursuing 2 of them. And he said, oh, why are we only pursuing 2 and not the basin? Why don't you do it? I said, because we can't. We cannot pursue a feasibility study in a place where the school committee doesn't want us. So we can't. So they expect us to keep pushing forward on these feasibility studies, and they expect us to bring solar projects at the next opportunity. But this current opportunity is kind of passed, and everybody is aware of it. And that's the way I've had to go out and say these things, and I did. So we're not backing over it, Phil. I'm just saying, we're not backing over. So I gotta get it out by the 18th, the PowerPoint, and it also has to come with a paper handout if you want a paper handout.
Yeah, we'll probably.
I think we probably have to have like a 1-page that we put together. So
We're 40 minutes over.
we
want to know.
I know, but we've kind of also sort of tripped into
Yes.
this first agenda item anyway, you know. So we've kind of made a decision. I will send out what I have. And comments are welcome. I have some ideas. I may send out an edited version that has some of those ideas added back in. And so a fundamental question, I mean, before we get off that topic of the PowerPoint, a fundamental question is, should I spend time in this little window of 5 minutes talking about the progress we've made on the report? That we see these financials, we see these opportunities. This is what the future holds for you, town of Concord. And now let's talk about the article.
I don't think you should. You
No.
don't have time. It's
No,
way
no
too
time.
complicated. Well, I think it's okay. The report's coming. You can quickly say, so task force, do your first slide. The report's coming.
Yeah.
Please about the article, but it's not the
Okay,
article.
right, it's not. but-
They need to vote on it. They don't
Yeah.
have future.
Yeah,
Right.
But.
I put those financials and the future in there for the finance committee because I had gotten questions about that from the finance committee. They're like, okay, what do the financials look like and blah, blah, blah. And I had to show them some stuff. So that's.
Well,
why
I think when we get to workshopping the thing, we'll figure out how to do it.
Okay, all right. So
Yeah, I
I'm
think-
very concerned about is our telling the town, you tried hard, you gave up, and here's all we can ever do.
No, we haven't said that.
We
yet.
know, but.
No, we haven't. No. The main part of this battery discussion is it's a gating issue. We can't do anything without getting some of these first steps in place. So the most important one here is, yes, we're still actively working. We've also identified some of our gating issues, and the battery and the solar saturation is a gating issue. Going further and promising more things until we address those primary things is irresponsible. So stay on point. This is what we're doing. This is where we're going. Here's our gating issue. Help us solve the first one. We're continuing on with, and we'll be coming back with more. Right?
as long as we say in some appropriate way, and we're actively working on some opportunities, but it's taking a long time.
Come on.
We spent a lot of time on this, Phil. We gotta put it down.
Yeah, gotta move on. Yeah.
Gotta move on. Okay, so, there, after the 18th, we're locked and loaded for town meeting. We're done. Everything's handed in. The moderator puts it out for.
Go up for next year.
The moderator does go through a whole review process between the 18th and the 29th, and there would be a feedback loop. She might say, you gotta change this, don't say that, something. They go over your PowerPoints. That's her.
Yeah.
And she might have a revision. So,
And the handout, though, is there any review of the handout? I can't remember.
that's a great question. I think that,
We can figure it out. We just don't get dated, that's all.
I can ask Carmen if
Yeah,
there's a
that's
review. That's fine. I can ask. No big deal.
So the handout ought to be done at the same time as the slides.
Yes,
the slides
yes,
are done.
you'll notice,
Yeah.
agenda item that I had for tonight had both of them in there, so yes,
Okay.
we have to talk about them at our next meeting. So the next one is kind of
Hold on, so someone should come with a draft of it then.
Well, I just, I feel like the handout, does it really have to be done at the same time?
The question is whether it has to be handed in at the same time.
it has to be handed in on the 18th with what, handing it in.
No, the slide's one thing, but like a handout. For the-
Well, you have to have your name and address on it, and who submitted it, and all this kind of dated.
Like when you, just outside the room, like the league does their stat, but you just talked about an extra sheet, right? that
Yes,
you
it
get
goes on
what
the
that
table
means,
and then you pick up and it helps describe.
It's an official document because they have to approve it.
You have to approve anything that goes on the table. Has to be- They have to review.
Has to be
it.
approved
Because I'm just freaking.
and signed off.
Okay, fine. keep going.
All right, one more thing before we get off of all of that. I have to go to yet one more presentation, and that is the League of Women Voters is holding what they call their informal review of the warrant. And so I get to go and get
Oh,
another.
what's that?
Okay.
That's on the 10th. That's on the 10th.
You're so popular.
I'm making the rounds. There will also be on a Thursday in April, the second Thursday in April, second Wednesday in April at 8 in the morning. Like, I'm gonna have
Oh,
to get their buy-in on this. So there you go. So now that it's 7:30 and we're way over time, feasibility studies update. Jason, can you give us a quick update on where you guys are?
I can. Yep. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Great. So we'll start with the slope first. I think I mentioned last time that we are working with a firm by the name of TRC. Laura has been engaged with TRC and is communicating with them every couple days. We did get a quote from TRC with the scope of work, and we needed to massage that a little bit. And one of the areas we needed to change was the insurance requirements. Since they're going to be doing work in a CAP DEP site, it's really important that we make sure that there's not any liability incurred when they go and do soil sampling or work over there. We also, they seem to be amenable to actually building into the scope of work, getting us a cost estimate within plus or minus, I think, 25% of the racking system that would be needed to install on such a steep slope. And they thought that they could do that. So Laura had them do that as well. And then also, they need a lot of documents that we didn't have. Some of these are documents that ASDEP has on file, but they're not accessible on the web. We made some initial requests to get some of these documents, and we found that it was going to be a very time-consuming process. And Laura had the suggestion of building that into TRC's scope of work just to make sure that it got done in a timely manner. And it wasn't like a rate limiting step on the part of CMLP where, you know, they were saying, okay, we're ready to proceed, but just give us all these documents. And they thought that these were things that they could get pretty easily. It just would take time. So we had them change all of that. We actually got the proposed contract and statement of work today. I sent that to Gail Dowd, who's our interim procurement manager, today for review. I'll also work with our purchasing person in-house, Rhonda, to get a requisition started tomorrow. And I wanted Gail to have it as soon as possible because she's going to be the one who's going to go through and look at this from a 30B perspective, from a Chapter 164 perspective, from a making sure we have all of our ducks in a row with insurance and everything else. we feel pretty good about that. The other thing is this did come in under 10,000, just under 10,000. So that's not going to trip requirement for multiple quotes and different vendors. So that's great. But it really is, it is in their court now. So we could see a quick turnaround and be able to execute the agreement quickly. Carrie, the town manager, will need to sign it. Once signed, TRC feels like they can get this done in a few weeks. So that will be great, and I will be able to provide an update as soon as we get the contract executed, and they'll be able to deliver a timeline to us pretty quickly.
When you speak of the
Was it?
approximate price.
Around $9,500.
My question is, does that include site-related costs? We somehow have to get the structure in place in the ground. Is that included?
This
or
is just feasibility. It's just the analysis of the place.
This is just.
And no work to be done.
You
just,
give me a cost estimate on actually building on the site?
Yeah, so we do have some, we have data on racking for ground mounted, but what we don't know is what the cost differential between normal flat ground mounted is and very steep slope racking. And so that's why we wanted to build that into this scope of work with TRC, is to, right now it's all hypothesis. We basically said, well, we know what ground mounted is, but we'll add a contingency on top of that for slope work. But that's really a guess. TRC is going to be able to confirm that with some vendors and maybe do some analysis of other projects just to figure out exactly what we're looking at for the number of panels that are proposed.
Includes doing that work to come up with an estimate of mounting the ground mount.
It's a feasibility and an estimate of the cost.
Can I just say
Including
real
that.
quick, it's just the approximation of the uplift for a system on that part of the cap landfill versus a regular ground mount. So it's $1.50 versus what this is going to cost.
Right,
Estimate.
and that would cover,
That would
Our
cover
best guess.
the whole job.
okay, that's my question.
Did I get that right, Jason?
Can I ask a question about the documents problem that you have? Is there any chance that some of these documents are on file at Public Works, because this is a town property? Did we get our own copy of these and they put them in a file somewhere?
So some of them we had, and we did check with Public Works, and we also have a records manager in town, and he has eyes on everything that exists within the town. So we've already found everything that we have internally, and that's where, and when we made initial phone calls to Mass DEP, and they confirmed some of these, they said, like, because of the sensitive nature of some of these things, they said that they would be like, you'd have to go in a room to look at them and evaluate them. So I had never heard of that. I assumed they'd all be public records, but I guess because of national security or other concerns, I don't really know what, but basically TRC will be able to get all of these.
The Freedom of Information
Oh
Act.
my goodness, okay, all right. Well, then you've already exhausted
Yeah.
our own inventory, thanks.
Exactly. Yep. And we did find a sizable amount. I think we have about a third of what they would need.
Wow, only a third. Wow.
Only a third,
Only a third
but it's sizable.
of the documents that they
Yeah.
need. Okay. And how about, has any further progress been made on the roof over at CCH?
Yeah, so we've engaged SDA for the roof, and Chris White and Laura have had a few discussions. We have a meeting on Friday to discuss this in greater detail. What we're trying to see is if SDA is qualified to do the civil engineering work required to look at the structural load, of the roof as built, and if it will accommodate the number of panels in the Cadmus report. And then also do an assessment of the current state of the roof to determine when it would need to be replaced based on its current life, and then what any proposed racking system would do for penetration through the roof and its impact. So he's pretty confident, but Laura wants to get a higher degree of certainty before we move forward. And so that's what the call is on Friday. I'm invited to that and will attend as well. So I think after we talk to Chris, we'll have a much better sense as to whether this is in SDA's scope, and if they can do everything. He's positive he can confirm things like existing roof structure, panels that could go up there today, and they do have civil engineering people that can do structure stuff. But what she's trying to avoid is him getting us 80% of the way there and then expecting they're doing 100%, and then we've got this information, and then we have to go start over with somebody else and, get them to do it. So we just want to be absolutely positive that they can do everything he thinks they can. So seems optimistic and positive, but again, we're just want to be sure. I did want to also mention we're about to bring on a consultant, a sort of a part-time employee, limited status, who is going to be essentially our internal project manager for the middle school solar. But she has vast construction and solar experience working with the state. And, we have her up to so many hours a week, and we think that the middle school is going to take so much. So we'll probably leverage her as well for some of these feasibility projects just to keep them moving. And it's tough because, as you know, Joe, the engineers, they all have like a million requests coming in at them. And what I'm finding is just that while they do excellent work, they just don't have the time to attend every meeting, stay on top of vendors and contractors as much as needs to happen for us to get things in a timely manner. So it's great to have Michael Hale from Shrewsbury and also now Mary coming on. So we're just trying to line up as many resources as we can so that we meet our objectives here.
So just a quick one. When we did Beatty way back when, it was in 2014, SDA did the work, and they got us a structural engineer who gave us a certified review. It's a stamped and certified, piece of paper that said this is structurally capable of doing what you want it to do.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they're talking about the same thing here or not, but they were able to pull it off last time. So
yeah, I think Laura's concern is that SDA does 95% plus new construction. And, when she asked for examples of modifications or existing or looking at older systems and, roof quality, things like that, it was clear that they hadn't done a lot of that. So that's where we just wanted to be 100% certain that they would be able to look at, a roof that's several years old and be able to make an assessment on that. But I agree with you that they have the resources to do the structural engineering load stuff. We just wanted to make sure that the existing because the as-built drawings that we have do not line up with what's there because they've added structures that have not retroactively been added to the as-built. So that's something different. They're used to looking at plans and working in the sort of hypothetical, and we have some real world wrinkles up there, and that we just want to make sure that they have the resources to get up there and actually do that analysis.
good.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay, so our next topic of conversation is kind of a report discussion. Where are we on the report? Charlie has been toiling away, and he has something to hand out. So we have some. You like to hand out? Or
Yeah. Why don't you find it on the? I'm going to give this out as a hard copy, but why don't you find it?
Oh, sure.
Send you a copy of it. I guess what I'd like to start out by talking about a little bit is what we're trying to do with this report, and what makes a successful report, what makes an unsuccessful report, and I'm quite convinced, having had some experience in town over the years, that the best work is the most succinct, briefest, tightest work, not the work that is the most extensive, longest, and weightiest. The number of reports that have no real executive summaries and run 50 pages and so forth, there's quite a few of those. People don't read them, and I think the ones that you find that are really get something done and mean something, are the two pagers and 3 pagers. And I think we can all say, well, it'd be great to have lots of appendices and we can have so much stuff in there, equip all future generations to, take care of all problems. It's probably, in my view, is not a good move, because it's harder to download, they're harder to pass around, they're harder to print off, and they're just more difficult. And I don't think that there's a tremendous amount of. I don't think we were put in place to do a research job. Let's put it that way. We were put in place as an action committee to figure out what needs to be done to get us off the dime with respect to solar and whatever else we need to make solar happen, storage and, you know, communication systems and so forth. So the shorter and the tighter, the better. Well, that's what I think. And what I've done is I've mapped out what I thought made sense. And we can talk about that, and I'll pass this around. It'd be easier to read on a piece of paper than on the screen. So that's kind of where I'm at. So I've got to start here, and these statements that I have in this document here are not meant to take a position. They're just meant to try to encapsulate what our findings are. What did we find out? You know, is the kind of the first question. We've been in place for a certain amount of time. What have we found with respect to the problem that we're trying to solve? So that's what this is.
And the part that I'm wondering how we can best communicate that, because I think it's very important, is we haven't given up on giving the town what we asked to do.
No, of course not.
So, and therefore, if we could also briefly say, and here's our revised timetable, because we found it takes a lot longer, and here are the projects that we will continue to work on.
So what I think, what I think, we need in the way of a report is we need to restate what the charge is. We need to basically state in a succinct way what our findings are. We need to have a discussion of our findings, and we need a set of recommendations. It needs to be boom. It needs to be tight. Now, if that's not a good outline, we could prepare a better outline.
We need a better outline. The one element that I think is crucial is, and here's what we're planning to do about it. Take us along.
Well, that's kind of what this is.
Okay.
So if we look at this, you can see what it is that we've learned and what it is we're saying that we should do. And I think we ought to try to agree on the things that we've learned or that we found out what our findings are. And they're just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them.
So these are findings.
These are findings.
Like facts.
These are
These are the findings.
Okay, no, I'm with
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Yep,
exactly. So findings are what did you find out? What did you learn? Where are you at on this? You had your charge. Okay, what have you been doing? What do you have?
And how we
So-
try to build on that is to be the
So
crucial question.
once we have agreed that this is the universe of the findings, so to speak, we ought to build out with discussion the ones that need some discussion. They don't all need discussion, but some of them do. For example, the financials and the way in which the valuing stuff was handled. And yeah, so there's a list of things that can be appended as it's sort of the next section, which is a discussion section of the pieces that need elaboration. Otherwise, a lot of these just kind of stand on their own. So that's kind of what I had. Now, I don't really know how we go about reviewing this. We're getting feedback. We're going through it, but I don't think the committee can write a report very well. So
Kelly, can I ask one thing? So I agree with these points. I'm not understanding. We have to build a report. One of the things that we have to say is, can we put 20 megawatts and solar on financial?
well, this kind of says that.
Well, it's got 5 points, but I don't know if it says we have a plan that will put 20. Like we know how we're going to get there.
If you look at what I put up for the finance committee and you're just spitballing there,
Right.
it doesn't get us there.
I know it doesn't. So that's why I'm asking the
Well,
question. And I don't think that NCI and TCI.
But we don't know where we're going to end up. We don't know where we're going to get to because we don't have the data.
But so I guess that's the point. So our charge was put a plan together to
get
get
to
that
20,
20,
to
right?
get to 20.
And so my first thought was, can we get to 20? And maybe we don't know how, but do we know enough now to say it may not even be feasible?
Well,
Like, that's a tough question. We said maybe there's 4 sites, and then maybe there's NCI, and maybe there's teachers in mind. But that's a big statement that says we
we're
may
not sure
not
we
be
can
able to
get
do
there.
20.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe we're
Well,
raising the.
if we were to say, you were to take Gavin's list
Well,
rooftops.
behind the meter, that's, yeah, that's what.
Of rooftops, and say, if the town were to invest its money in behind the meter systems on schools,
Yeah,
on
that's-
town buildings, et cetera, that extra meg or whatever, 2 megs, gets us it.
Are you recommending
Yeah.
that? Are we recommending that?
No, we're just
We're
talking,
just trying to figure out.
We're creating options.
Well,
Right.
well, I'm not, okay.
well, just because that's our charge. How do you get to,
Right.
20, right?
I think that could be in the executive summary, you know, before this section, we can answer the fundamental question in like a high level summary saying, is that total right?
It's like, we had too many conversations. Gavin, can you say that again? Sorry.
Sorry, yeah. No, so I was saying, I think you make a good point about the importance of addressing the 20 megawatt question. So I think these findings are a good way of organizing it for reviewing now. And we can have an executive summary at the beginning that answers the fundamental question of 20 megawatts, yes or no. And we can do nuance. We can add nuance onto that. We can say depending on solar costs going down, depending on behind the meter, like what you were saying, Dean. But I think, yeah, upfront, it's important to answer the 20 megawatt question.
But you know, they all say right now we can't.
The data answer the question. Data say that we have a very limited amount of land
Right.
that, and we want to do we're promoting ground mount, and it doesn't get us there.
Right.
Even with the
But-
nuclear side.
But even-
Well, so, and I just.
Unless
I
we
just-
get all of it, so to speak, if we were to really
As we
say,
now think
which
about
is
it, as we now-
unlike,
we're now thinking,
right,
as we now consider the availability of land, we aren't going to get there. But that's okay.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
I'm okay with it, I'm also okay with it. Okay
Well,
with
we-
it.
Yeah.
Except for the chart, right?
Yep.
And so what we might be able to say is, given what's readily available to us, and
Right.
what's cost effective, this is how far we can go. And we may not be
Right.
20. I don't
And-
even know when it
And
is.
frankly,
But then
it
it's,
won't be the end of the world. We started with a report years ago that said we'd get 25.
I know,
And then
and
the-
that's why.
Then the climate action plan said we'll get 20, and if we come back and say, really, all we're gonna get to is 18.
But on the other hand, we're being very responsible about it, right? We're
Yeah.
still do,
Right.
and it also means, I guess I'd be cautious on MCI and 229. What we can say is, we can go this far, but then these are open questions, and if you want to use those for solar, you can go this far.
Well,
But
they're
that's
they're all
beyond
open.
us.
All those sites that we have there are
Right,
not.
but for our report,
Amendalia is not.
It's not a drop kick.
yeah,
that is-
I'm with
You know,
you. But we should be,
the basin.
yeah,
said-
no, I'm with you, but we'll have to keep those tires a little harder. To Mary's point, your job is to go out and find those problems and figure out how far it's going to go.
And I did speak to Alan Cathcart, and I was like,
Yeah.
the treatment beds, what
Yeah.
about those? And he's like, leave them on your list. If I get the wastewater treatment plant, go have a nice day.
No, what's
Right.
it?
You got.
So I totally agree
Yeah,
with what you
yeah.
just said. Yeah, I think we probably need, a very brief couple of bunch of one-liners maybe for the executive piece.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yep.
There's some major opportunities close to, but outside of Concord. And should we say anything about that option?
Well,
No, because it's
It's not-
town-owned
Our
land.
It's not-
charters,
it's
no,
part of land.
The expansion of our charter, is that something that's even worth indicating?
Well, it's outside the fence line of the light plant, so it would have to come around the corner and through the substation to get it into get it in. So,
We're already doing that.
and we're already doing that, we're already
We're buying it
contracting
from
with Western
Greenfield or wherever.
Massachusetts and
Yeah.
northeastern Connecticut and other places to get solar, we're already doing it. So that, it's not this,
Okay, so let's step through these. So
Yeah.
what's financially sustainable?
Gavin, do you need a copy of these sent to you?
Steve probably does.
And Steve?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that would be
I can see
great.
it. Yeah.
I think just like with the slides, if we could review before the next meeting, maybe even have a more robust discussion next meeting, because I like to sit down and like walk through line by line.
Yeah, I would too.
So just to step through these items, because I think we need to agree that these are the 6. And if we need more, we miss some, we need to know what those
All
are.
right, so we'll just take them at the high level, we're not gonna go,
But the high level,
Yeah.
Want to go through, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so, what's financially sustainable, for CMLP is ground mount. So that's
Mhm.
what is going to be owned going forward
Yep.
in terms of solar for the town of Concord in terms of what our recommendation is. Stick with ground mount. That fits the model of CMLP ownership. That's it, done. Rooftop best fits behind the meter model is the second item. We want to encourage roof mounted. We think it's a good play, but we probably need a little bit more flesh on this paragraph in terms of getting it. But rooftop in terms of its cost is close to what it in terms of what it actually costs to build is close to what it would cost to generate the energy off of your models, right? So yes, that's correct. So parking canopies are off the table, period, unless somebody wants to figure out how to subsidize them.
Yep.
So rooftop and parking canopies are not part of the in this write-up, are not part of the purview of the CMLP going forward. They would not be owned by the CMLP, and rooftop would be strictly owned by, if done, would be strictly owned by the building owner. Then we have the total of 4 possible ground mount sites identified on town land. That's why I called that this. We got 4 possible new sites. That's it. So that puts a collar around it at what? 5 additional megawatts, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it. So don't go looking for any more. That's all we can come up with. We did on this.
And we took Plainfield Road off the table, or whatever that was. It's
So
like
White-
half an acre.
Mhm.
The one near White Pond. We took that
Yeah.
off.
Okay, next,
all right.
peak shaving and battery storage. This is gonna require some thought, and we had a little bit of a discussion about this earlier, but the question is for us, for the battery that we're recommending is how's that battery gonna be used? And, there's a couple ways to go about it. If we can get both functions out of it and not compromise either, I think it's a great idea to do both peak shaving and grid protection off the same system using the same technologies. On the other hand, the other possibility is, hey, we use curtailment as a strategy if that all else fails. And I think maybe that's what we want to upgrade this to. Is that what we want to?
Does it
Is
matter?
that what we're saying, Dean?
It might be a fallback position if you're in a position where we need this for peak shaving and we don't have, the battery's not charged properly. You just have.
But I didn't have a dual purpose for this battery in this statement here. I have a single purpose, which is just,
Oh.
cap and trans. So you can do cap and trans, or you do cap and trans plus, the grid protection stuff on those peak days that you want.
I think we pretty much have to go with the dual purpose and figure out a way to balance the two needs.
It has to
Okay.
align with CMLP staff.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fine. I
Yep.
just think we need to be clear about it. I don't think we have been entirely clear, so that's good.
Do it, that's the problem. So we will
Okay,
do
then
it.
solution.
The EV center drop off and out in priority.
It didn't, it's sort of a good example of that.
Of the rooftop
behind
by the
center.
meter. It's
behind the
it's
meter.
in the paragraph that says behind the meter is a good idea. Rooftop best fits
Oh,
behind the meter
that'll be
model.
great. We'll have
So-
that as an example.
Yeah.
So, we then run into the last one, which is solution for CMLP grid vulnerability. Are we rolling these two together? Or is this a separate item? Because I figured,
This is the CMLP staff.
peak shaving is peak, pardon me?
This is the CMLP strategy.
Which
That's
one?
the solar saturation, but the last one.
The last
Say
one,
grid
right.
vulnerability.
But the CMLP also wants to use its battery for cap and trans, because that's how they pay for it, right? So maybe this is just one bullet. I'm happy with that. We just get rid of the separate solution for grid vulnerability. Just
Charlie, I mean, there's also this is sort of one of those precedent issues you have to deal with in the front. You have to lay out that says, we want to add solar, but there is some things that have to be dealt with, and solar saturation is one of them. It needs to be addressed before a considerable amount of our goal can be met, right? So maybe it's not a finding, but it's a existing condition in which the committee has to work within or be aware of as we continue to add solar.
We're going to exacerbate it.
Well, it's a finding to some extent, because when we started this process, as you recall,
Yeah.
there was a sort of flat out statement, we have enough solar, there's no more solar that we can have because we're
Right. Yeah, yep,
And, we basically, unwound that to the point where we were able to say, gee, there really isn't any blockage on us going out and getting more solar sites.
right,
We do certain things.
right, provided CMLP does certain things in parallel with what we're trying to achieve.
So then we came down with the fact that, and this was also through our deliberation, we came down with two choices.
Yep.
The one choice was the one that we preferred, which is the control system that
Yep.
enables us to curtail a site on demand.
Mhm.
The second choice is the current CMLP strategy, and these need to be kind of worked in terms of, well, which one makes sense, and do we want to really do both, and so forth.
Right.
So the board, I think we have to be clear, and, Jason, you can correct me if I'm not. The board made the metering domain a critical strategy because they felt that the battery was not in the short term, and they needed an ability to put that energy back to the grid.
Well, I
That
guess
was-
I agree with you, and I don't think we want to mess around with their strategy.
Yeah.
But I think we are basically saying that here's another opportunity. There's another way you could do this, and maybe you don't need to do the metering domain, because at the end of the day, you're going to spend a lot of money and you're not going to get anything back on it.
Well, but
You're going to protect your network.
Well,
That,
well,
you know,
you're going to
well,
protect your
if you add
network
more
unless you
solar
have
to
a,
it, right?
well, you're going to protect your network, but if you had a better way to protect your network that paid you money, which would you rather do? Make money off protecting your network or lose money off protecting your network? Well,
There's options. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
there's the short term with, right? Because
Right,
right,
after
but-
that, there's more control.
but based on the fact that, CMS already has a battery coming.
Yep.
And if we have some success here, we will have a battery stage to come.
Yeah.
Where are we with metering domain,
I mean,
I mean, we have to go to the board.
Yeah.
well,
It's
and the
not for
question
us
is,
to
no,
say.
it's not for us, but
Yeah.
we're just offering this up as our preferred strategy. We're not
Right.
going to say you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do the metering domain. That's up to you, but.
Right.
But we are saying that we think that the control system, in conjunction with a battery, is equivalent to the metering domain in terms of functionality, but better because it enables you to dispatch the power you save to the peak. Now, I don't know what you think about that, Jason, but that's kind of does not be answered tonight, but it's certainly, I hope, a consideration for the
I just
CMLP.
want wondering for our report, if our goal is to sort of put forth a plan for the solar,
Right.
because that's our main thing.
Yeah.
What we've done, article is find the feasibility of that to help the light board really understand what their
Yeah.
investment strategy should be,
or
Right.
what their options are.
what their options
Yeah.
are. Move that process forward. I don't think we should make a statement about what they should do. I think our
No,
goal
but we
is
can
to
say,
do
we
that.
can say what our preferred,
We could say what
our
we
preference is.
Right. Right, and we can put it in the context of the industry and most of the
Right.
manage that. Yeah.
And
And the notion that this guy, exporting excess power at the solar peak is probably going to cost us money.
it would probably not cost us any more than throwing it away.
Right, but it
Yeah.
would,
Right.
you'd get a bill for it.
The dollars would go out the door as opposed to, hey, we have these extra kilowatt hours here that are being curtailed, that we're not able.
Yeah,
to-
but wouldn't it be better, to suck
Store
those
them.
off
Yeah.
and store them and,
Absolutely.
and,
I mean, the metering
and
rate
if
was
our-
proposed before there was a plan for battery, to be honest with you, it really was. It started a couple of years ago, so.
But if our strategy is this dual purpose strategy of using a battery to do two things, then we don't need curtailment unless we're up Schitt's Creek with a solar
Well, that's
peak problem.
fair.
Yeah, if you get a conflict where either you're hitting the cap peak in the middle of the summer for some reason, and at the same time you got excess solar curtailing. And
Yeah.
Save your money.
Curtailment should be, you know, in this case, should be an exception.
Yeah, it would be.
Well, and I would also ask, are these solutions going to handle all of the town's goal for solar? If we add 11 meg, is battery and, going to solve that, or is there some combination here that's going to allow us to advance to our full goal without the metering domain?
Let me make a comment about that. I think one of the problems we have here is we don't know how much storage we would need to deal with this problem because there's no load information.
No load.
We don't know whether we're going to use 2% or 20% or 30%. We don't know what we need to deal with this so-called solar peak problem that's troubling the town. I shouldn't say so-called,
Well, and
but
it's evolving too.
and it's evolving.
Right. So we just need what I was trying to get at is if our goal is to look all the way to the end and say, here's our full goal, I think our report should at least acknowledge that there are what we know today and what it's going to take to get to those to meet the town's goal and the effect of that goal on the overall solution.
Well, we won't know because
Then that's what we should just say.
we will say in the recommendations that we need to do this load study.
Yeah.
We need the load to get to your point, and the load stuff that we laid with Eaton, I think was pretty reasonable. We wanted to know under various scenarios.
Yeah.
Of load under various scenarios of solar investment.
Mm-hmm.
Storage we needed. I think that's what you're getting.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Do we know enough now to get to the goal? No, we don't. Or we need additional information to look forward, so beyond the 4 sites we have now or beyond 2.5 before we get to the domain, we need some additional information. We just need to acknowledge what we do and don't know.
Okay, so that's the recommendation for the load study that we have in it.
Yeah.
It's $100,000 right
That's
there.
$100,000.
Yeah, and that's one of our findings.
That will be a recommendation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right, though. I think the finding should indicate maybe a little bit stronger that we don't know what the load. I think I said that already. I said that we don't know the load.
I haven't.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take this down since we're just sort of talking in general and we're just talking some points.
All right.
And I will forward that out.
I'll also add, while there's a brief pause here, to say I think this doesn't need an answer, but I think we should think about what our role is as a task force, maybe compared to the light board in terms of our recommendations. How far out looking do we want to be? Let's say for battery storage, are we comfortable with recommending a newer technology like CMLP, having the ability to tap electric vehicles as a battery source, things like that. So yeah, I think we think about what's the extent to what we recommend, what is our expertise, how much can we recommend as a solar task force? Because once we talk about one thing in the electricity system, CMLP, you could talk about a dozen other things or a dozen other future points or where the technology is going.
You're not wrong. The simple case that's been forwarded again and again is just having a whole fleet of buses and being able to utilize that.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Yeah, that's my point. Like, yeah, I mean, I think personally it would be helpful to talk about maybe CMLP and the school committee need to start an initiative where they work together to plan for electric school buses. Like that could be, I think that would be an interesting recommendation. So yeah. Sorry, what'd you say, Charlie?
Yeah, there's been talk of that.
I don't know what authority we have or standing we have to get into that. That's
That's what I'm thinking. We have to decide on that.
Type of thing. I'm all for it, and I understand that vehicle to grid thing, and that's a fantastic thing. But it seems,
Scope it a little bit.
yeah, I think what we're doing is hard enough already. That I would see that as a separate sort of work block if somebody wanted to pull a task force together to do that, they could go do that. Kind of almost stand on its own.
Yeah, but
the
you
light
could also
pollution.
just put a sentence in there that says, we acknowledge that there's lots of other technology opportunities and such. We encourage the town to, you know, basically help search out other opportunities. That's all. It doesn't have to be, we don't have to identify them, but we can encourage an action on the town side to continue this investigation or, you know, other steps as required to increase sustainability.
And they'll be stirred to action.
Mhm.
No, what I'm trying to put a bookend to our scope, but not cut everybody else off by saying, you know, this is what we've done. We always encourage others to do more, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
That's good.
That's good.
That's good. Right spirit.
On our rooftop paragraph, is there any reason why we shouldn't enumerate candidate sites?
I don't think we really need to, quite frankly.
It makes the whole thing seem more real and academic.
Well, I mean, it could be one of the things that was, put in appendix.
I mean,
This is a summary.
Gavin's done a lot of work. I
Gavin
don't
has-
see why not to put a summary of, here are the sites that have been identified with their estimated potential, you know, potential capacities. But
If you want to sign up to go off and do them yourself,
No, Gavin's already done it.
I'm saying that this is not for the light.
yeah,
So this
If
is
you
not
wanna-
within the scope of
if the town
what we're
board
recommending for the light plan.
Town.
Right.
the town,
I mean,
you have to,
Well-
take a little more expansively,
Right.
I do think we're talking about the town.
Yeah.
So, it's, you know, the fact that the light plan is gonna own it is different, but it's still the town.
right. Dean, I know that we've got to give a report.
Heard about that.
I think so.
Is there also an opportunity to, in essence, have an extended meetings? I mean, we want to put some appendix of some of the other things that we may have. Is there a way to archive some of the information, even though it's not part of a report, but say these are, you know, additional documents that support the solar task force, you know, activities or something like that? Is there another category of storing information?
Into the report, just.
Yeah, so that's a great question because we have relied on, you know, there's been a lot of work that we've done.
Yeah, right.
Referenced a lot of
Other
other
reports.
sub-elements to get to where we are.
Right.
Is there a requirement to have backup or does it just evaporate when we all go to the four corners of the
Right.
world?
Even if it wasn't a requirement, is it an option?
So
Sure.
well, going back to the rooftop stuff, I do agree with the comment. I think we ought to include in the discussion section, a discussion of the rooftop opportunities available to the town. And that we ought to clarify that it's up to the individual town departments to pursue those with their own money.
Right.
Their own budget.
And we
they're
can
behind-
use
and they're
BB as
behind
an
the meter.
example.
And then we can give a list.
Yep.
And that's, I guess, would primarily be
Why
school
is it
stuff.
doing that versus going to the town for the money? For instance, the school committee would be very reluctant to do anything.
The school committee could go to the town and get the money.
Right,
They want to
well, are
do that.
they likely to?
Yeah.
The town for the money.
Or there's a partnership, or there's a donation, or there's a grant, or there's all sorts of other things that people have funding opportunities. Right? To punch that subsidy request.
We have- I think Dean made a good point. I mean, we have the town has buildings. And we ought to list out what the town could do with those buildings.
Yeah.
And individual departments that need to do this,
And
Yeah.
it might
not the CMLP.
town departments or the town manager build some relationship with CMLP because they have expertise. I mean, the town
Yeah.
is how they might want to make that process.
That's right.
We use BD as an example, but that, you know,
Well,
The
we can
towns-
be careful with that. I think
BD is just.
one of the helpful things we're trying to do here, I'm not trying to take sides on this, I'm just saying that one of the helpful things we're trying to do here is get the CMLP out from under the notion that they have to do more than ground mount. They don't.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying, if the town, and I'm putting quotes, town is committed to this, they could hire sort of, you could have a bundled contract to 10 roofs. So maybe it's not one department, maybe the town
Sure,
side.
the town.
We got 5 big buildings with a brand new roofs. There might be something. I'm just.
And all the budgets, you know, all the managers of all those budgets, directors could put that in their budget and we would be good.
Well, the reason why I'm not in favor of saying the town departments, the largest one is the high school. And to me, that's like saying that.
It is like saying never.
I don't like to say never.
Well, we should put another caveat out there, and the caveat is that the best way, and Steve might want to comment on this too, the best way probably to do rooftop, and we should put this in the discussion section, is with new construction.
Mhm.
So
Just
buildings,
build it into the new construction.
buildings are built brand new, should simply be in the budget.
Yeah.
The notion of going and doing these aftermarket deals, I think, is a loser.
That's what Boston's doing, what's Cambridge doing. Every time they issue a permit, they're like, where's the solar?
And we ought to have a policy, we ought to have a town policy that requires this.
Well,
Yeah.
future sites, absolutely agree with you. The idea of abandoning anything that's already built for philosophical reasons.
Well,
We're not abandoning
anything.
No, no, no.
Lori, if you feel strongly about the environment, you know, the best strategy for us is for you to do it. Take, you know, get the money, put it behind the meter, benefit from it, and life is good.
Yeah, go to, see.
Yeah.
What we need to build momentum among the thought leaders in the town who are making these requests. We're going to get 3 million and we're making an argument that it is financially practical to do. If Lori were to go to the town and say, we need 1.7 million to put this on the roof, it's practical for the school to do it in the long term. We will benefit, the school budget will benefit.
Mhm.
Make that argument and get it done.
It's a
She can
great
defend
idea.
it, she can
She can
defend it.
defend it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great
So-
idea. I don't think it's got a chance in hell of ever happening. Therefore,
Well,
shows the.
Well,
solution isn't
it's the
gonna
difference
happen.
between what Dean is saying, which is let 1,000 flowers bloom type strategy. Let everybody go do it. Versus, we're gonna do it for everybody. Doing it for
I mean,
doing it for
It's not-
everybody, it's not work.
For the
Yeah.
land. It's not cost effective.
It's
Yeah.
not, it's
You're
monolithic. and
differentiating between under the meter or outside the meter. Fine. We-
yeah, I mean, it's retail or wholesale. We're trying to solve a wholesale problem. There's plenty of retail customers out there, like the beauty center or like the schools that are paying, retail. It has a different equation, right?
This is which stuff fits which business model. That's
Yeah.
what we're
Yeah.
doing. The business model that works for us is town-owned, bigger than 0.5 megawatt
On the ground.
Yep.
That's it.
That's the wholesale return on investment. If you have a school department that's paying retail, they have a different equation.
It's not clear to me that's being realistic. Theoretically, that's a good answer. Who cares about theory?
Well,
Well, I do think that the town, it has been proven by town meeting, they have an appetite for sustainability. And if you have to bring a debt issuance to do something like a rooftop, let's say we build a new public, or we want to put something on, I don't know, we just put a new roof on the public works building. And you want to do it, then let Alan Cathcart, who just went up and asked for 50 million the other night, go have him ask for, $1.5 million to put it on the public works building and make the justified cause that this is actually going to save the town some money over on its retail use of electricity. I mean, that argument, he made an argument last night for literally $50 million.
And you think therefore the school committee is likely to do likewise?
I don't know what the school committee is willing or happy to do, but I'm just saying that from an economic practicality perspective, it's really the only way to get these rooftops done.
And I think there's
And
an
I think
opportunity.
it's reasonable.
for this, if we have to develop a report, we have an opportunity to have a public, a public forum, share these concepts, put the pressure on for something. It feels just good.
So,
Okay.
Maybe I could just say that, you know, from a town perspective, I mean, that's, at least as I see it, that's, you know, part of why my position exists. Is to look at this big picture, see what these committees are doing, look at what the town's doing, look at capital planning, look at where there's opportunities for new buildings or retrofits. And any opportunity I can is to try to advance, you know, all these sustainability initiatives, you know, including solar. With municipal buildings, I mean, schools are a different scenario, you know, I think everybody knows that, but, you know, to still advocate, you know, with the schools to be pursuing these kind of things. You know, so there's, I think to this position, my position, voice for that, there's somebody who's, you know, looking at things through that lens constantly, you know, so, so I think some of this discussion, you know, kind of, I keep seeing that coming back to me. You know,
Yeah.
So. No, I know, but I'm just saying, like, I mean, there seems to be a thing, this discussion seems to have, you know, some concerns about, you know, these opportunities and trying to take advantage of these opportunities through departments or through, you know, town leadership, town manager's office. And, you know, there's a lot that happens and discussion that happens behind the scenes through my role with all these groups. So I guess what I'm just saying is that you know, there's somebody looking out for those kind of things.
Well, having attended town meetings for many years, one thing is a recurring theme is the schools will always feel squeezed for the total amount of money they're asking for, and how does it compare to last year, et cetera. So, to the extent that we're saying the only way you can have solar is if it's part of your budget, that's a kissing back.
Well, yeah, but somebody in my role and working with town leadership can continue to look for avenues and possibilities outside of that, you know, so.
Which is exactly why limiting ourselves to having each entity do their own, in my mind at least, is the kiss of death. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, we're still going after the basin at the high school.
We're still.
You are.
No, we are.
We are, this committee.
almost
All right,
Okay.
I think we've kind of covered this. I distributed it by email. You have it in your email boxes. We'll circle back on this at our next meeting. And
I think this is good. We do this kind of focus each meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got the thing done.
And Phil had asked that we talk, now we've spent a lot of time in the last 10, 15 minutes talking about rooftop solar, but let's put this in the context, like we do have an agenda item to talk about rooftop solar. To summarize the article and the benefit of rooftop solar as the article proposed it. The benefit of rooftop solar was that consumers of electricity would be using electricity on their home
Self-sufficiency.
and it would self-sufficiency, and that by itself reduces the demand on the wider grid. So that was the message of the overall article. Have I got that right, Phil?
Yes.
More or less got that right. Okay, and that's kind of an intangible. We'll call that an intangible. That actual benefit to the light plant is not an intangible. That is financially beneficial to the light plant and to the wider grid. If we put more solar on people's rooftops and the solar is used within the community by those homes, and that means less draw, and that means that the light plant is pulling less from the wider grid, the light plant can actually benefit financially. It's not intangible, it is actual. So I'm just saying that it's not as proposed by as articulated in the article. It's quote an intangible benefit of having this. It is financially beneficial to the light plant that we promote the use of solar rooftop.
Light plant doesn't have to build unnecessary capability.
We're buying more.
They don't have to buy more electricity from the wider grid, and that in itself reduces the demand on the wider grid,
Well,
which is under strain.
And bars
Reduces
and
what they
everything
can
else.
sell, therefore they have less sales.
Income, yeah.
to go out and buy new trucks. So, I mean, this is not, it's not a perfect, it's not a, it takes some imagination on the part of entities like a light plant to see how that really is a benefit, because you've got to kind of reconstruct and redo your business model.
And in fact,
Yeah.
the bar problem. Obviously, anything inside doesn't stress the capacity of the bar.
Well, anything inside puts the balancing act that we do between what's coming into the grid and what's being produced inside the light plant's fence line. It puts that balancing act on a bit of a more tenuous teeter-totter. That's all. And that's why you end up with strategies like battery,
Right.
metering domain, to moderate that, to mitigate it. So yeah, those are the challenges. But as far as the article goes, I mean, it's not wrong, but from the light plant's perspective, it's not intangible. It's a financial.
Right.
It's also just stating the obvious.
Yeah.
The article was stating the obvious, and we aren't saying anything different.
We're not saying.
Mhm.
And I think that by getting this paragraph here that Charles put in this document, which is there's a rooftop opportunity, that's consistent with that article. So,
We're also
Sorry.
construction, that isn't considering solar, which is unfortunate. See all the construction, Steve, over there at Middlesex, right? Not Middlesex, Concord Academy.
Oh, yeah, that big building.
Have you seen all that?
Yeah, I've seen all the construction, yeah.
Well, I mean, what are they doing? We don't.
Yeah.
And I think it's getting back to, rooftop. It's incumbent upon us to be sure that these institutions and that these people who own rooftops know that we're open for business.
Otherwise, it's the equivalent of advertising.
right. Well,
Yeah, something.
we've
Promotion, promotion, whatever.
we have
Yep.
been actively discouraging it.
We have.
We have.
Yep.
You're saying you can't do it because we can't handle
can't
it.
If
because
you
accept
do it, you have to buy
have
your own
storage.
battery.
Yeah, by
We don't-
Right, you have to balance it, yeah.
We have a strategy, but we haven't done it yet. So
Yeah, that's why I would say the schools are so interesting, especially in the context of behind the meter, because the schools would be the best place for there to be behind the meter solar, because they're one of the few places in town where during the day there's actually pretty high electricity demand, and not as much at night. So it's almost the opposite of the curve where, a resident would come home in the evening and turn on all the lights and everything. So it's actually, I think CMLP would, out of all places, might prefer solar, behind the meter solar on a school, because they wouldn't be selling to the grid during the middle of the day, and solar saturation, all this stuff.
I'm not sure I totally got that, but
Well, in
Their
other words, they
demand
don't
is
participate in
high.
the duck curve problem, because they're not
Yeah.
coming in and starting to use more energy they're turning down. the
Right,
light.
yeah.
problem with the business model for schools behind the meter is that they're not there when the sun is shining. So the sun is shining, they're getting, 3 cents a kilowatt hour or whatever they get paid at it, for, right?
Depends on the system, just services.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but it's just gonna be a dead loser. I mean, we know this from BD. As soon as you toggle the numbers and you're consuming less on a real-time basis, you're not getting the revenue. You're not getting the, you have to get the savings off of the 17 cents or the 18 cents or the 19 cents. And if when the sun is really cranking, you ain't there and you don't have anything on.
Especially in the summer.
In the summer,
Right,
in the summer.
Yeah.
The months are all wiped out and you're not there and you're gonna be a loser, I think.
Okay. Well, that could be problematic.
Unless it's a.
I'd like
You
to,
know, it's different.
I'd like to open it up
Yes.
to public comment. Is there anybody who wants to propose new business? Those are new business items, because Phil asked for it. Is there any new business that you want to?
Phil asked for that, didn't it? I don't.
He wanted it. We have it on there as a regular standing item. So in the event that there's new
Well,
business.
Pamela Tripp had her hand up.
I know,
Just have
I'm
that
asking
down.
now, it's time to go to
Oh,
public.
there,
comment.
she has her hand up again.
Okay, yep. So Pamela, you're up. You're on mute.
You're mute.
Yeah,
There you go.
finding the unmute button. Thank you, Pamela Dritt, 13 Concord Green. First of all, thank you so much, you guys. This is so important. Oh, you're my heroes. And
Haven't delivered yet.
Well, that's.
yeah, and you're talking about all the right stuff, I think. And I think you are in the right place to talk about the long-term things, the great big visions. Don't worry about what your narrow, what they said you could talk about. You should do it all because there isn't any other institution to do it. And it's through the light plant that the entire all of the decarbonized clean energy sustainability goals are going to get met. That through the building department. So go for it. Since we have to do, like our first sustainability director said, electrify everything and green the grid. We can only do that through the light plant. And if we don't look at what's possible, then we might go off in a direction that makes it never possible. For example, the school is never going to spend school budget money on something that isn't primarily to benefit the education of the kids. And the fact that school budget money has to be used for buying school buses, I don't think it does it? There would be a very big benefit to the entire system to have CMLP use, for example, the money we're using to buy RECs, to buy electric school buses and school bus infrastructure instead, because that's a giant mobile battery that's available in the times that we need it most, and would be a great way of balancing the grid, plus saving kids' health.
How much did we spend on Rex?
Zero, because, and only because it was a good idea to start with, because that was to incentivize the building of utility scale green energy. But it's now past that time where the return on that money is really low in terms of generating actual green energy, when we could use it to, for example, give subsidies to homeowners who built solar and battery. If the light plant spent the REC money subsidizing that, and also at the same time building the infrastructure to do the distributed grid balancing that we need to do for that, we could end up generating all our electricity here in Concord. The University of Vermont has got a study on grid distribution that doesn't even use storage. It does it like the internet does information. The system. Anyway, I think it's time to keep the light plant bringing in the money that we were using for RECs, but it does have in the possibility in the warrant for the RECs that we can use that for other infrastructure initiatives instead. We wouldn't even have to go to town meeting, I don't think. Anyway, I think we should use that for, we need to use it to get the most green energy for that money that's possible.
Just, even though it's off the topic, just make a quick comment. I think most of the RECs, if I'm not wrong, most of the RECs that we have in our portfolio today are coming as bundled RECs that come with the energy that we buy. So if we buy, for example, we buy solar energy from Western Mass, get the RECs with the power. So we're not theoretically buying the RECs, and we wouldn't want to sell them.
Well, we're talking about the unbundled RECs that we buy.
I'm talking about bundled RECs.
No,
So
well,
the number to understand would be the unbundled RECs that are associated with either gas contracts or spot stuff.
We don't have any more gas now.
You know?
We're out.
So I don't know. I don't know that there's any pot of money sitting there in the rec world.
And if there is,
Is
it's
there?
a-
well, but there is, because we have to right now, the way it is, the light plant has to pay back any amount we don't spend on the RECs. I mean, at least I've been going to the light plant meetings for several years now.
We're getting far afield from the remit of this committee.
Yeah.
And,
But the remit of you, could if we spent the money we're using to buy RECs to incentivize residential solar plus battery, along with electric school bus purchases and the infrastructure to do grid balancing, drawing from batteries and so on, couldn't we leverage homeowner investments, which would mean the light plant wouldn't be spending the money, the homeowner would. So we would get lots of benefit, as like you guys said, but for the whole town. And so would the homeowner.
Can I just ask you to wrap it up, please?
Yeah.
I appreciate your comments. We will take them under advisement. Okay?
And where do we get somebody that's able to do the whole system? Could that be you guys?
We have that kind of global view here, at least in this committee. So I'm just gonna say we gotta table that for now. There's not.
Okay. Quickly, winding up. I know. Can I get your handouts? Are they posted online?
They are not, but I'll get them to you somehow, one way or another. Can you text me or something in the chat? There's probably no chat on the thing anyway.
Oh, there probably isn't.
We'll figure out a way to get them to you. They may be,
Thanks.
go to the, I'll go to.
And can you tell? I thought your comment about telling telling the town how it benefits the light plant financially was really good. I think people think wrong things. They think the grid, people don't even know what a municipal light plant is. They think we have a power plant here. I mean, in the warrant.
We work with a bunch of little power plants. We have at Grace, we have at the landfill.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
Enough. I think, thank you for your comments. I think we're gonna wrap it up here. Are there any other public, there's nobody else in the public who even is attending, so I'm looking for a motion.
We're glad that you attended. We're
Thank
glad
you,
to
thank
have
you for
here,
joining. Thank you
Pamela.
for joining.
I have one question, Charlie, about the report. I have not written something for you. Are we
What?
still, when we were starting to do.
Oh, you
outline
don't have
the
to do that.
report?
No, don't do anything until
Okay.
I just have to figure out what we need and where we need it. I know what we have. I know what everything, all the work that's been done.
Okay.
And we'll just start collecting it as we find a space for it.
It's one of those, give me a date.
Okay.
Give me a date, I won't do it.
Well, I'll get it, make sure it's before April, whatever.
When do you turn into a pumpkin?
I'm not turning into something. Is that committee, if we still.
Well, that's a different question.
Okay.
It came up at the finance committee hearing, which is that they asked, are you guys gonna continue? This was at the finance committee meeting on the
Yeah,
14th. And I'm like, we're kind of done. When our report's issued,
Right.
we're done. We're wrapped.
I think we
And
should-
everybody, oh, don't go away. Don't go away. So
we are continued. I think we should be probably reconstituted with a charter.
Yeah.
With a new charter.
Yeah. Yeah.
They want us
to continue.
You gotta pick a new group and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Yep. Okay. A second. Okay, let's go around the table. Steve?
Yes.
Evan?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
and myself being yes, and we're out.